Ugh.
Blech.
Okay. Ew,
Ew.
cooties. I'm gonna fight the boy. You remember that? You remember that?
Yeah,
That's the thing
yeah.
in the movie that he
It's
does
so
twice.
stupid.
He does that twice. Because
Yeah.
remember, that's funny. I'm gonna vomit.
We have had a stressful couple of days because our neighbors have been coming over to like can stuff, you know? They have little children, but they particularly have one little child who like is just nonstop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've been spending my weekend.
That's tiring.
Yes. But also, the cats have been freaked out because usually our house is like,
Mm.
pretty mellow.
Very calm energy in that
Yeah.
house. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they're like, strangers? No, children. They they hate children.
Oh my gosh. That sounds very much like whenever my mother would invite people over to our house on a Sunday evening.
Hmm.
All the rest of us, Jason, Neil, and myself,
Yeah. You're like,
very much like those cats.
strangers in my home?
Children, high energy.
No, please no.
Actually, not even when we were kids, still to this day, she has to check with us. She's
Yeah.
like, "Are you guys gonna be okay if I invite people over tonight?" And we all have to be like, "Okay, let's talk about some things."
Let's
Because
manage
we
our
all have the
expectations.
same, yes, yes, we all have the same brain
Yeah.
uh adaptations. Yeah.
Hattie's the odd one out because she is like normal and
She's normal.
careless about
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
I've learned over the past couple of weeks that I need to just keep my baby wrap on all day
Mhm.
because Leo wants in and out of it frequently enough that it's just a hassle to keep putting
Mhm.
it on and taking it off again. So I just as soon as I wake up on Saturdays, I put it on and he just yeah joins me whatever
Yeah,
chores I'm doing. So that's
that's
he
nice.
might come and join us on the video.
I think it looks really nice today. It's like,
Thank you. Like a either like a nice top or a shawl of some kind.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Kind of
draped in
feels
a
like a blanket.
kind of fancy way.
Oh, thank you.
So people wouldn't look at you and be like, "Oh, what a crazy cat lady." They would be like, "Oh, she has kind
Very
of a
elegant.
classy little, yeah."
What's that new thing? Um, the
Demure.
yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Which makes me a little bit like, I love that word and I used to use it, but now every time I use it, I'm like, no, don't think this is just a fad for me. I already knew this word.
Yeah.
I didn't think of an acronym for today.
I thought of a couple letters.
That's pretty probably all we need, to be honest.
Woo! Okay. Let's see. Oh, no, I remember them. It's okay. M was mood. I remember that very clearly
Okay.
because I was gonna have T be tone, but then I thought of a better one for T, and so I made M mood instead. The only thing that's coming to mind right now is the hell were you thinking? And that
No,
wasn't it, but that could be good.
that could be
And if I
good.
remember it, then I'll let you know.
Okay. It's a question that they maybe should have been asked
Someone should have asked.
sooner.
Yeah, yeah.
This is like a multi-million-dollar production.
I mean, an exorbitant
Children are
budget.
starving. You know what I mean? It's like, why don't we maybe fund things that are important and not this movie? I don't know.
And you cast, well, we can get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I looked it up, and the casting is just as stupid as you think.
it's pretty bad.
It's really bad. I saw
Okay.
this article from 2013, about like the time that the movie came out. It was really brief, so it didn't read as like a defense of the casting, but it just was like talking about American heroes that are in the ancestry of Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp. And it's like
Oh,
it's a stringent connection. Like you wouldn't look at that and be like, "Oh, of course they're the perfect people to play it." You'd look at that and be like, "Could they not have found literally anybody else on the planet?"
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
It said Armie Hammer is part Cherokee. It did not specify how far back in his ancestry. It just says that he has Cherokee ancestry. So I was like,
ugh.
okay, sure. But then he's not even playing the Native American.
No.
This era of movie, this was my number one thought while I watched it, and I did only watch half because I didn't have time because of Neighbor Child, but also because I was like, "Eh, maybe I'll
And
update my
also,
Goodreads instead."
let's just make this clear. It is 2.5 hours
Two and
long.
a half hours long, and I could have spent the 90 minutes that I did spend on it, and like you could fit the story into that amount of time. It didn't
I
need to be
actually,
that long.
okay, yeah, no.
Anyway, the thing for
Yikes.
Johnny Depp that I was reading in the article is that it's talking about like one of his ancestors was like the first black woman to like sue the United States government or something, which I guess is like a cool story, and I would like to learn more about her. But she's his eighth great grandmother, so you might say he's white. Like at that point, that's 10 generations away. This era
Yeah.
of movie was so stuck on Johnny Depp being ethnically ambiguous, they would cast him in literally any role. And be like, oh, this character is, I don't know, Chinese. Sure, Johnny Depp can do it. Like they just kind of were like, he's ambiguous enough, even though he's white, like just white.
Yeah.
Except for
The
10
one I
generations
read.
ago, he was black. Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not
Also,
enough.
black is not Native
It's
American.
not Native American, so why would
They're
they
not
cast
like,
him as the indigenous character when he's white with like a tiny bit of black ancestry, African American ancestry, not Native American ancestry? It's like, what are we doing? And I also saw there was like an interview of him quoted where he said that he took the role to right the wrongs of the past in terms
don't,
of
I
like
saw that
Native
one. Holy
representation. And
shit.
it's like, if you're trying to right the wrongs of Native representation, don't represent a Native person as a white guy. And then he just plays him like watered down Jack Sparrow anyway. Like it's not even a new character. You might as well have just given it to like an actual Indigenous actor.
That's
There are
the biggest thing
Indigenous
about this movie
actors
is like
in the movie, but they just play like
so
background characters that you see twice and not the
one has a
same guy.
line.
You know what I mean? It's like
One of them has lines
the whole time.
the whole time.
It's
Yeah.
two and
Okay.
a half
So
hours. We said that, but
let's,
I'll say it again. This movie is two and a
you
half hours
can't say
long.
it enough.
It's about supposedly about an Indigenous American, and there are like almost no Native people in the whole movie.
Welcome to Women in STEM.
Hi, thanks.
I'm Whitney. This is Olivia.
Hi. And we're here, this is Tragedy Month, and we're
Yes, it
oscillating
is.
between tragedies that are like really beautiful stories that end in, despair, the traditional definition of tragedy, and movies that should not have been made. It's absolutely tragic that this movie is made. So that's what this week is. That's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
Halloween.
And we're sorry. Feel like I need a cigarette.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. Oh my gosh. I mean, there aren't very many movies that I've ever seen that I actively dislike.
hmm
There are quite a few that I'm apathetic toward. Um, and there are a lot that I can just admit is not my style, not my taste. I don't like biopics. They're not my thing. I don't like them. I I don't know why. I have tried time and time again. They're not for me.
hmm
This is the kind of movie that I want so badly to love it. And there's just damn near every choice they made was the wrong one.
Wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I liked about this movie was its potential, and what I disliked about the
That's
movie
exactly what
was
that's
the movie.
exactly.
You know?
Yes, that was it
Yeah.
hurt my feelings.
Why
Like
did you let Gore Verbinski direct this instead of me?
and
Never mind the fact that I was in junior high. I could have done it.
so genuinely you could have done a better job.
Yeah, even then. Like, I'm not saying now, I'm saying as
hmm As
middle
a
schooler,
13-year-old.
I could have directed this better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I mean, that is
embarrassing.
the heartbreaking thing because aside from the casting, which aged like milk,
And even at the time, like 2013 was a long time ago, but also not that long
not
ago.
long
And at the
enough.
time, people were like, oh, that's a little weird.
Yeah. No one really wanted Johnny Depp in this role
No,
except for the
of
people
course
who
not.
wanted the movie made for some reason. Everyone, I remember back in the day, everyone was like, "What? A little weird." That was even before Oh my gosh. The funniest thing about I do think we should just take a moment to appreciate this fact is that Army
Uh-huh.
Hammer
Uh-huh.
is fighting a cannibal in this movie. I just
Yeah.
think that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do that on purpose though.
No, of
I'm
course
pretty
not,
sure.
because that was
So,
years prior.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
but let's just
It's just
I
funny with
mean, the
like
world can be
recent
beautiful
scandals about
sometimes.
Army Hammer. The world can be beautiful sometimes.
Yeah.
And I wish that I didn't know anything about him, but unfortunately I did hear
I
about
know.
that.
Yeah.
And it didn't
That one was hard to avoid.
it didn't stain his like good roles to me,
Mm.
but it did stain the bad ones. I was like, oh, you know why he's such a bad actor in this movie?
Yeah, you
Because
have
he
you
has a
seen The Man from
thing.
Uncle?
He has this thing.
He's side
You can look it
eye.
up.
We're not talking about it. Mm-mm.
No.
No, except
We've
tangentially.
said too much already. Have I seen The Man from
Already.
Uncle? Not the one with Army Hammer.
Oh, I liked that one. I
Cool.
haven't seen it recently enough to remember if it is actually good,
That's
but
okay.
I
We can
remember really
rewatch
enjoying
it.
it.
We can watch Sorry to Bother You. That's like probably my favorite role of his. It's perfect. The whole movie is like slowly unraveling. It just becomes more and more unhinged, and it starts not very hinged. It's on half
Fun.
a hinge.
All
So
right.
by the time there's like a reveal with Army Hammer's character, and you're like, it's awesome. It's so fun. Anyway, so we should rewatch. I should rewatch, and you should watch that one, and then you should
Okay.
rewatch, and I should watch The Man from Uncle
Okay.
sometime.
You also at some point, and I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but you probably also should watch the first half of the what's the one with Kenneth Branagh in it? A Death on the Nile.
Oh, I should watch
He's
only the first half?
only the first half.
Are you gonna
I
watch
mean,
the second half?
I don't want to watch it again.
Okay.
The whole movie was so bad. And I
Uh-huh.
remember being disappointed because I enjoyed the first one well enough.
Hmm.
But Army Hammer is in it and he plays Gal Gadot's husband, and they have negative chemistry. They have no tension at all
I
between their
believe
two
that.
characters. Yeah, so stilted and awkward and uncomfortable. It's so bad, dude. It's so bad. Still, like, gives me oh, it's so bad. So
I'll have to watch it at some point with like one eye, you know,
yeah, yeah. Make
yeah,
sure you've got
at a time.
yeah,
She's like not my favorite actor anyway, so it's funny to imagine them doing things together because he's pretty hit or miss. Speaking of hit or
yeah.
miss, Gore Verbinski,
You know what else Gore Verbinski directed? Pirates of
Rango.
the Caribbean,
Hmm.
Rango. Damn right.
Yeah, yeah. But I think he got too reliant on Johnny Depp's star factor.
He did. He
And
did.
then he made The Lone Ranger. Why would you do that?
The thing is, that's absolutely devastating. And uh, oh my gosh, this movie took two fantastic movies. It took Pirates of the Caribbean and it took
Hmm.
Rango and it mixed them together. And do you remember how we said that
And then it
Rango is like
strained
if
it out.
Mad Max and Flushed Away got together and had a baby?
Yeah.
This movie is like that, but um
It's like,
they didn't have a baby out of love. It's they each took half of their DNA and created something horrible in a lab,
yeah.
mad
And then it was
scientist
like,
style.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it was like Frankenstein style where they're like, oh
Exactly.
no, they're like afraid of their own creation, except that you kind of have no sympathy for the creation like you do in actual Frankenstein.
In actual Frankenstein, yeah.
It's just like
Because the actual this creation
really,
is just offensively bad.
it's like really
It's
bad.
so bad. They took every fun part of Pirates of the Caribbean and Rango and all the like classic Western movies that are actually good
Yeah, yeah.
and ruined
And
them.
they're
They
like, we don't
pissed
need
all
that.
over them. What they
I
how'd they do that? How'd they so
genuinely,
thoroughly ruin so many
well, because it's
good
such a
parts within
classic,
it?
you know what I mean? Like Westerns have been a style of movies since movies began. And there were a lot of good things about them. That's why people kept making them with that kind of format. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the
Although they
hero's
haven't been
journey.
perfect since Hell's Hinges 1916.
That's true. But like the hero's
Yeah.
journey, you see that style of story over and over again a million times, and
Right.
it's still fun. Like, why would you take the format of a Western? which has been fun so many times, and then be like, what if I could make it better? You, Gore Verbinski, cannot make it better. It's already a beloved genre, and you are one man.
Pretty much all you have to do is just let it play itself. So how do you get to the
Yeah.
point where you mess it up that badly?
There was too much going on, but also kind of nothing going on.
Yes! How do you feel overstimulated and bored at the same
I
time?
know.
What
That's
is
how my
that?
cat felt when the neighbor kids were at our house yesterday.
That's how I feel at work every
I
day.
really want to play, but I don't want to play with you.
It's so sad.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
I think struck okay. So I think
Eighth great grandmother. Sorry, I'm still thinking about it. I wrote it down. I was like, I think that's literally 10 generations away. I wrote it down. Eighth, seventh, sixth, fifth, and then I did little fractions, little percentages of
oh, look at that.
how much colored he is. He isn't, obviously.
Hmm.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
other
we
thing that
all
I
know
read,
that, but they just kept letting him play like, ooh, nobody knows. Brown characters, but he's like just isn't, is the thing.
no,
It's like
yeah, so
rude.
let's
It's
talk about
rude
his
to all
character,
brown actors in the world.
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Johnny Depp,
Take your time.
thank you. Oh my gosh. Usually there's a lot of good things that we have to talk about, and it's hard to get them. Like when we talked about Mad Max Fury Road,
Hmm.
I remember jumping from topic to topic like nobody's business because I want to
Yeah.
make sure we talked
Yeah.
about all of it.
We
This
had to
is the
talk about
same
all of
problem, but
it.
the
And our
opposite.
recording session was like 3.5 hours.
It
We
was
narrowed the video
probably
down to, three-ish.
the
But like,
length of this damn movie.
yeah.
Too damn long.
Too
That was
long.
it. That
Too
was it.
damn
That was
long.
it. Too damn
So
long.
true.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I knew we could get there. Too
Yeah.
damn long.
Because it is. In the time that you could
Structure,
spend
too damn
watching
long. E.
the mood.
Move. We'll find the E.
Yeah,
We'll get there. Yeah.
we'll get
Go on.
there.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Just in the time that you could spend watching this movie, you could also watch our podcast episode about Mad Max. Is that a better use of your time? Yes.
Yeah.
Usually I would say like, like you can watch
Mm,
it if you have time, it's fun.
yeah.
But this, it genuinely is. You can watch two strangers on Zoom talk about Mad Max for 2.5 hours, and it will be more entertaining. It will have a better structure.
Yep. Because
And
at least then we're talking
we
about
didn't
Mad
cast
Max.
ourselves as Native Americans in that video. Why would we
The
have done
other the other article that I saw about Depp's heritage was that he maybe, that was the word that they used in the article, that he maybe had Native American ancestry.
Yeah, allegedly.
Like, how
If
do
you
you
don't
not
know,
verify
if
that?
you don't know for sure, you shouldn't
You,
play that character.
yeah. I wrote down a lot. I wrote down 2 full pages of notes. This one isn't full, I guess. I wrote
Yeah.
down a page and a half of notes because after a certain point, I did just get bored writing them down. I was like, oh my gosh, oh
You're
my
like, who
gosh.
even cares anymore?
Yeah. For, so yeah, let's talk about Johnny Depp's character. The original Tonto, I just to be clear, I have never seen the original Lone Ranger show. Like I have no nostalgia for it.
Hmm.
I'm not like heartbroken that they ruined a beloved property to me,
Hmm.
not particularly. I don't care, this
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
about ruined nostalgia. This is just about you
Bad
could have done
movie.
something good by taking an Indian stereotype character, albeit one that I've read a lot of Native Americans genuinely loved because it was the only representation that they had on screen at all.
Yeah.
And these two things can be true at the same time. He can be bad representation, but also good representation because he is representation.
Because he's
So
there. Yeah.
because he's there at all. Yeah. So you could take the character of Tonto, who has a lot of uh, problems in his character, being that, he's like just a sidekick, and he speaks with broken English,
Hmm.
and his name means stupid in Spanish. You could take these things and you could change
Could
them just a little
reimagine
bit.
his character to be more accurate representation. Or you could make it less accurate because that's not how every Native American person is, and that's not even an indigenous person. So it's worse
No.
now. It's worse now than it was in the olden days.
And they try to explain this in the movie by saying that Tonto, his mind is broken. He's gone insane because of a traumatic childhood incident, and that doesn't really cover it, I don't think.
No, no.
Um, because also they have him in war paint for the entire thing and not wearing like why isn't he wearing clothes? He's shirtless for like the entire thing.
For the whole
The
thing,
actual Native
yeah.
Americans that we see are wearing clothes.
Yeah.
Like, and if you like, I don't know,
But
if
it's
he's walking
still
around, why wouldn't he?
pretty like costumey.
It is, yeah.
But they at least are wearing something. Yeah, he for the whole movie is just half naked,
Why, like, I'm pretty sure,
inexplicably.
weren't they allowed to wear jeans? Didn't they have jeans back then?
They did
Why
have
isn't
jeans
anybody
back
in
then.
jeans?
They had jeans at the time of Dracula.
I didn't know that.
You
Dracula could
should
be
know
wearing a
that.
pair of
And you
jeans.
should
Everybody should
know
know that.
that in the story of Dracula, one of the main like crew is an American cattle rancher. And
I
so
did know
every time I
that.
read it, I'm like, he's wearing jeans.
Cowboy!
Yay!
See,
Everybody
this is
else
the
is in their
thing.
stuffy British clothes, whatever. And then this guy walks in,
Got a couple of six shooters, probably
Wranglers,
cracking open a
baby.
can of Coke. See, this is the thing, is cowboys are inherently fun. There's okay, so obviously the bad representation. He speaks in broken English. He wears the crow on his head. Oh, this
Mhm.
is the other thing that I was gonna say is Johnny Depp designed the character based on a painting of a Native American, but the painting was done by a white man
Of course.
with no research or like basis, nothing.
Right,
He
right,
just
right.
it
It's
was
not
like
like it was
this
like
is
a
look
it's not like it was a
cool.
portrait.
No,
Like he
yeah.
visited a tribe and was like, I'm gonna paint you.
Yeah. And throughout the whole movie,
Yeah.
they do this. I mean, a lot of movies are guilty of this, but they kind of mix and match Native American customs. So
Yeah.
they're Comanche, but they talk about Wendigo in this movie.
The
And
whole time. That's
the
like the
whole time
main
that's a
thing.
main plot point, and that's
Yeah.
another thing that I'm going to talk about.
Just watch Ravenous instead if you want to watch a movie about the Wendigo.
Say it again. Say
That's
it
literally
again.
the whole
Yes,
time I
I'm
was
going to
like,
be talking about Ravenous
is it,
again. I'm not going to apologize.
listen, is it a shorter runtime? Yes. Is it more
90
fun?
minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Are the indigenous
Damn it.
characters played by indigenous people? Yes.
By the accurate tribe as well. They're Ojibwe.
We're not
They
mixing
sat
and
for
matching. We're
Ravenous.
being accurate. We're saying this
They
is an
put so
Ojibwe
much
custom.
research
We
into
are
it.
do oh my gosh.
They sat literally for two. There's a like probably a 30-second clip of Native Americans singing in the
Mhm.
middle of the movie. Um, and they sat with the chief of the Ojibwe tribe for 2 weeks to gain his trust and talk to him about why they thought this was important
Mhm.
before he was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. It was him and his wife singing in their home. That was the setting that music was recorded in. And everyone talked about everyone. I listened to the director's commentary on this, and the whole sound crew that was present talked about being so moved because A, the trust that they were given, and the fact
Right.
that like they were given the gift in the first place, and like all of these things.
Yeah, I mean it's like a beautiful moment of cultural exchange and appreciation and like working together. Or you could just give the
Put
name of
Johnny
the
Depp
wrong
in a
nation.
crow hat.
Yay! You could be like, oh, I don't know. It's like some nation. I didn't really look it up. Let's just say Comanche question mark. And they have this belief, and they don't. But let's say that they do. And let's cast a white guy.
Also, we're in Texas, but we're gonna be shooting in Utah
Of course.
for some.
Yeah.
Texas doesn't
And
look
it's
like that.
like Texas
Mm-mm,
doesn't look like that. Utah looks like
mm-mm.
that. And it's not like cowboys and Indians didn't
Oh, come
exist
here,
in
baby.
Utah. They exist in Utah. They
That's
still do,
where the
actually.
state got the name.
That's so
Yeah.
like just set it in Utah.
Just literally, why not just set it in Utah? Was the
And then you
original
could
Lone
be
Ranger
like,
based in Texas?
right, and then you
Is
could be
that
like,
so important?
which nations live in Utah? The Utes, mainly. That's again where the name comes from. So you could pick, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna set
Yeah.
it here, just like pick a tribe that actually lives here, pick a custom that they actually have, or like a belief that they hold, instead of just mixing everybody together and then not even casting an indigenous person to play that.
Yeah. The
And
way
it
the
was
Wendigo
made
is
14 years after Ravenous, which was better. So there's no excuse. You can't be like it was of the time.
that felt really good to hear you say that.
It should
I
never
know I
be.
talk about it a lot, and I know I'm also sick of it. But it
Yeah.
is like there's a reason for this insanity. It's because Ravenous is a good movie
Yeah.
and it does those things so well.
Hmm.
And if you absolutely must talk about Wendigo in this movie, write that in
Hmm.
intentionally because it is Algonquin, and that is not like there's there's a little patch of Algonquin nation in like what's the state? We've got Utah, Colorado.
Hmm.
Is this it? Colorado? So, like either set it somewhere near that, write intentionally a character from the correct culture
Hmm.
being able to talk about it instead of the Comanche talking about oh just the silly ghost stories that we would tell our children. That's how they talk about it in this movie. That's not it. No.
And it's like it's disrespectful to just like assume that that's it. Never check with anybody and be like, yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
put that in our multi-million-dollar film.
they spent I didn't even look at the budget, but it was hundreds of millions of dollars
They should
that
have
did
paid
not
that.
go
They should have
to
paid that
cultural
in
research.
reparations
You want to know the other fun thing that they
to
spent the
every
money on?
indigenous tribe in the United States.
This is real. They hired the world's leading yo-yo expert to be on retainer on set during the duration of filming for the one character who keeps flipping his watch into his hand. They spent money on that, but they did not hire a Native American to play a Native
Any
American, and they did
indigenous
not
consultants,
hire.
they
No,
didn't
they
let
were
any
the Comanche
actors.
tribe worked with the movie, but like,
I think that that's probably there must be some sort of like law. You know what I mean? It's like legally we have to
ugh,
invite a Comanche consultant, but we already wrote the story. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think it's probably just like a hurdle that they had to jump instead of
yeah.
something that they actually
Like
did out of love and respect, like Antonia Bird.
Antonia Bird, when will she return from the war? The other movie that this movie is like, but not enough, is
Mhm.
Legend of Zorro
Hmm.
with Antonio Banderas. You know what that movie does well is
Masked
everything.
Bandit.
Masked Bandit, secret mining,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
man getting crushed by the hordes of wealth, white man with long blonde hair being crushed also. Like,
Hmm. These are all good
basically,
things that movies should have.
and it's also not 2.5 hours long. This movie is 2.5 hours long. The
This
one that we had to
movie is
watch,
two and a
this
half
movie
hours long.
is 150 minutes long.
See, when we talk about if a movie is longer than 90 minutes, it has to be worth every minute. This is why. This is why you have to make that rule, because otherwise people will just ramble for almost 3 hours
And say nothing at
and
all.
say nothing at all.
But it
Um,
could have. That's the
it could
thing.
have. It had
This had
potential,
the nuggets
and
of
then
good
the
thought.
story should have been reworked, and different actors should have been cast.
Yes.
I
And
liked Helena Bonham Carter
I really
was
like
good,
her.
and I was mad
Yeah.
at her for being good. It's
No.
like, this is not the movie for you. Okay, you're better than this.
Yeah.
Why are you actually giving a good performance in this movie?
I mean, the thing is,
Johnny
it had to
Depp's
have
phoning it in.
something.
He's playing Jack Sparrow light. Why are you actually interesting? Stop that.
Maybe they should have just made a movie about her.
I think they should have.
Yeah. That's the other problem with this movie is it has no idea what it wants to be. It
Mm-mm.
has no idea. It vacillates wildly between goofy, campy ridiculousness and serious, gritty remake.
Hmm. Hmm.
Either one of these, I think, could have been good.
Like
You
just pick
know,
one.
we love a good campy movie. I
Hmm.
don't mind if you don't answer all my questions. I don't mind if you say that's just how it is here. Sure, why not?
Hmm.
Like the scene where they're in Helena Bonham Carter's, why am I blanking on the right word? It's not whorehouse. I don't want to say that. But what's the word for that?
Like mhm.
Um um a not brothel.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
the thing is,
okay.
I'll tell you why I couldn't think of it, and it's because my family, whenever we hear the word brothel, we say that's a soup kitchen. So when you said, why can't I think of the word? I was like, it's a soup kitchen. So then my brain was thinking about soup. It took a minute to get to broth. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the scene where John is like, this place has a lot of health code violations, and Tonto pulls out a notebook and starts writing them down. That could have been funny if A, you had a different cast, and B, we hadn't just watched a massacre. Because there are several massacres. I'd say a total of 3 massacres in this movie.
Hmm.
Too many massacres to have a scene from Psych,
Yeah.
and not even successfully, because let's talk about
No,
this too.
it's knockoff
John
psych.
Reed is the most unlikable main character. It's not even because I don't like Armie Hammer, because like Olivia said, he had some good performances, and there
Hmm.
are several of his movies, like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., that I remember so enjoying. Get out of there.
It's hard for him to like sometimes you see a movie that's like bad, but then there's a really good actor in it and you're like he's what made the movie worth watching. It's
Yeah.
hard for him to do that. If he's given a script that is like stupid, he just comes off as
Yeah.
stupid. Whereas he has other performances, even like Call Me by Your Name had a lot of like it was acclaimed and then there was a lot of backlash like after the fact. And so
Mm.
people are kind of like it's a toss up on whether or not you want to talk about it. He was good in that. You know what I mean?
He's
And people
capable of
like his
doing good
performance
performances.
because
It's
it's like
that,
a genuinely interesting story, even if
yeah,
it's problematic, you know. But
yeah,
then this is like a story that could have been good but wasn't, and the production of it was problematic, not the story itself. So then it's not interesting.
yeah,
Like you want to watch a story with a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of like, "Ooh, can you do that?" Of course they can. It's just pretend. We're supposed to think about why they would do that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But then not in real life.
It's unfortunate because the character of John Reed is written so poorly.
Yeah.
Like, this
I
was
didn't
so
understand his motivation
2013.
the entire time. And again, I did only watch the first half, but I was like, why is any of this happening to this guy? He doesn't seem
Yeah,
like he makes any choices. He just was like a plot
yeah.
device, not a
The whole
character
story
the whole
happens to
time.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Let me pull out my health code violation notebook. Did they even
Okay.
have health codes back in the day? I don't know.
I mean,
I'm sure they didn't in
probably,
brothels
yeah, I'm
out the
sure.
edge of the West.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
talk about John Reed. John
yeah.
Reed is instantly unlikable just because, like, okay, the time period that this movie was made in 2013, it was right at the peak of Joss Whedon's career, and we all know how I feel about
Mm,
him. We all know how we
mm,
feel about irony poisoning, which
mhm.
is ruining our nation and the world.
Yes.
And this movie was not immune to that, because the whole time there are so many like self-aware quips at the audience that, like, right, audience, this is silly. We
Yeah.
know that.
Well,
Like,
but
this
that
guy is kind
annoyed
of a
me.
quirky man.
And that annoyed me because the whole movie thinks that it's good. You can either think that it's a good movie, or you can be like, you know what I mean? Because that would
Yeah.
lend to like the campiness and silliness of it all. But they're trying to be serious, so it just plays as like this guy doesn't know how to act. You know what I mean? Which
Literally, that's
isn't true,
exactly it.
but that's how it comes off because it's like you have to pick a thing.
Pick one thing. Are you going to be campy and ridiculous, or are you going to be serious?
Like, what
Because
do you
you
do
can't do
successfully?
both. You can't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing.
And we're
This
always
movie
saying that.
had a lot of genuine emotion. There is a scene where a man cuts out another man's heart and eats it right in front of him. The man is still alive,
Hmm.
and he cuts it out live, takes a bite from it. This is a scene in the movie, okay? We had 5 different times in the movie someone say, "What's with the mask? That's stupid."
Right.
I'm and I'll get into that later.
Can I
Uh
say something really quick about the thing where you take a guy's heart out and eat it in front of him?
Yeah.
First of all, it is Shakespearean, which is cool. But
Yeah.
secondly, there's a novel called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is like the story of Pride and Prejudice, but then they reimagine it where like Lizzie is like she's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's silly. Is it good? I don't know. I read it. But the thing is, it came out in 2009, which is before this movie. So in my mind, I'm like, it wasn't a Shakespeare reference. It was stealing from Pride and Prejudice and Zombies when Elizabeth Bennet tears a man's heart out and bites into it.
And good for her.
Good
She
for
can do
her.
it.
Hmm.
Beatrice, she can do it.
She can do it. She didn't even do it in the play. She just said that she was going to do it, and it's still, you're like, oh my gosh, she
It's
really did
like,
that.
yeah, it fills you with as much horror as if she'd actually done it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, girl, boss, go.
Mhm.
Again, she would deserve, like, you've earned that right.
Yeah.
And this guy, if they had leaned into the horror of this story, if they had chosen, like, okay, we're gonna make this, it's the Lone Ranger, which is a fun, silly, like, if they had done this to this, what Christopher Nolan did to Batman,
Right, like
or even,
a gritty remake of a funny story. They didn't
yeah,
make it a horror movie. That would be
or
fine.
even what they did with Michael Keaton's Batman way back in the day, because
Hmm.
Batman was like so silly goofy, and then who directed Michael Keaton? It was Tim Burton, right? I'm not making that up. So they could have done to this one what they did with that one, because those are, again, those two adaptations took different interpretations of it, because Tim Burton's Batman is still fun and campy and a little goofy, but also it takes itself like a little bit more seriously. It's like a grown-up version of a thing, but still intend. Do you get what I'm saying
Hmm.
with that? Like, it's not as campy as the Adam West version where they have like shark spray,
Yeah,
but it's
which is
not,
awesome.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it still shows how much love that everyone on the cast had for the original source material. Also, just one more thing. I love Michael Keaton. I love everything he's ever been in, even if it's bad, because again, he's in Marvel movies, and I forgive him
Mhm.
for that because that's Michael Keaton. And the thing about him that I love so much is that he understands that Batman at his core is a little freak.
True.
Michael Keaton understands this.
Hmm.
Other guy understands this, Welsh guy, Christian Bale, that's his name.
Yes.
And Lego Batman understands this.
Hmm.
Like, name more perfect Batman adaptations. Yeah, that's what I thought. They could have done either of those things with this movie. The
Yeah.
Lone Ranger, I assume, again, because I haven't seen it, is campy and a little ridiculous, and you could have made it different campy and ridiculous, but still
Hmm.
like a little bit more weighed down in reality. Or you could have gone Christopher Nolan Batman with it and made it so serious. This villain could have been a Heath Ledger Joker moment because he was
And
phenomenal.
name something that society needs more than we need another Heath Ledger Joker moment. Crickets. Hmm.
We miss you every day. Our king. Yeah, anyway, okay.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Um,
Stop
one of
it.
my professors, his name is Steven, he was telling us in class, probably only yesterday, which feels like forever ago, his view of heaven, which is
Stop.
like, heaven is a big lunchroom. He like paused for a minute and everyone was like, what? And he's like, and everybody's there, and you just get your tray of food, and it's good food, and you can go and sit by anybody that you want and talk to them.
I
And then
get it.
he listed a couple people that he wanted to go and talk to in the big lunchroom that is heaven, and was like, okay, like
I
I
get
understand the idea,
it.
but it's like most people, I think, have like a bad idea of lunchroom because it's like the worst place at school.
Yeah, I would say that most of my trauma that I've ever experienced in my life comes from having to eat in the lunchroom in middle
Yeah.
school. And
But
I was arrested
I
last week.
guess the idea is that it's heaven, so it's not bad anymore. It's like the platonic ideal of lunchroom, not the basic human reality of lunchroom. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just thinking that right now in the big old lunchroom in the sky. Heath Ledger and Antonia Bird are just having a chat.
Oh, that's cute. Oh,
And the food is good because it's heaven.
and they're not eating human flesh
No, they don't have that available at the cafeteria
because it's heaven.
because it's heaven.
I don't know if it's going to be allowed, and admittedly, I understand if it would not be, but I hope I still get to watch Ravenous up there. I'd love to talk to her about it.
Anyway,
Fun little reprieve.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
So okay, they could have gone one way or not the other, but they chose instead to do both, which ruined
and
the other.
ended up doing neither. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Armie Hammer plays John Reed, the most stupid protagonist I've seen in a while. And the story
It's not even
suffers
like
so heavily
fun
for it.
stupid.
No, it's frustrating stupid. His introduction is him holding up John Locke's treatises for government and saying, "This is my Bible."
Yeah, and actually,
Dork!
I hated that. But what is actually his introduction is that he's on the train and the little baby across from him drops
Oh
their
my
doll.
gosh.
And he like is gonna give it back, but then instead of giving it back to the baby, he's like, he catch and throws it out the damn window. That's so stupid. And again, it could have been funny if it was funny, but because this movie is bad and not funny, it wasn't funny. It was just like, what the hell would you
Why
do
would you do
that?
that?
You just threw this child's toy out the window.
She's an infant. She's not big enough to catch it. And
Like,
also, you're sitting 2 inches
Haha
away
Catch
from her.
is funny with like a 6-year-old, but this child is clearly 2 or younger.
She's too young.
So she can't catch it. If a kid drops their doll, pick it up and give it back to them physically with your hand and their hand. You can't be like, haha, catch with the window open.
Right there. And you're sitting knee to knee with the person holding that baby.
So he
You're
throws
touching them.
so he throws the baby's doll out the window. And none of her adults notice, but they do notice that the baby starts crying, so they calm her down. And then they're like, "Hey, would you like to pray with us? Because he's wearing a white collar and he looks like a priest. Would you pray with
He
us? We're
looks like a priest.
Presbyterian." And he says, "Sorry, this is my Bible."
This is my Bible.
So then you're like, "Oh, I hate him." Because it's like,
So much.
could
So
he
much.
not?
He's insufferable.
Was there no other way to say no, or could he not have just said yes? Like, why was this the option?
You can either believe in John Locke or God.
And that's what I always say.
I'm remembering another misunderstanding that we had on this channel regarding John Locke.
Yeah, was it because somebody, I'm not gonna say who. One of us said John Locke space the name, and the other person said John Locke, the no space, the one name, the ship name, and we were like,
That's
what?
exactly what happened.
What? What?
See, now that's funny.
That's funny.
They could have put that in the movie.
They could have put that in the movie. It was 2013.
Oh my gosh, Vietnam sounds. Anyway, he continues. It's not even like that first moment is redeemable either. He continues to be insufferable. And through the whole movie, Tonto hates him. And like, that's annoying because they're supposed to be buddies
Hmm.
anyway, but also like you totally get it because
Yeah.
he's an idiot.
And so
He
you're just
is
like,
an
it's
idiot.
another moment where you're like, why is this the main character? It could be
Yes,
Helena Bonham
yes.
Carter's movie. It could be Tonto's movie. But
It could
instead,
be
it's
Dan, the
this
cool
guy.
brother. The whole movie, everyone's like, John is the wrong brother. Dan is the cool one. He's the guy who made the treaty with the Native Americans, with the Comanches in the first place. He's the one who got the girl. He is cool and sexy, and I love him so much. So, of course, he dies within the first half hour of the movie. You'd think
Hmm.
it would be
Hmm.
sooner, but because this movie is 2.5 hours long, it takes them a while to kill him.
Hmm.
And so you
And
get
the
to know
thing is,
him
like,
better. And you're like, well, literally, why isn't this
yeah,
his movie?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Because it's not even like he has like he gets the girl, right? And John used to be in love with the girl. And so you see this like sadness And you could sympathize with like, oh, she married the wrong man, except that John sucks.
He is objectively cooler than John.
So it's like, okay, I kind of get it. You know, it seems like she's still maybe harboring some feelings for John, but she also says we were children back then. So it's like maybe she's trying to move on because she can see objectively this guy sucks.
And this guy is a whole ass
The
man. He's
other
got a
guy,
mustache and everything.
the other guy is professional. He's
Hmm.
cool. Think
Yep.
about that.
Wearing jeans.
He wears jeans, okay? He's a
Mhm,
man.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, baby. This guy is a weenie bitch who says, I'm going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
Okay.
Curtains, curtains.
You know what I mean?
Someone get the hook.
It's
Get him
annoying.
off the stage.
And it's
I
another
like
thing that could be funny if you're like, oh, this guy's a little too serious about being a lawyer. There are probably ways to make that work, but it wasn't
maybe.
this way.
Yeah, they intentionally make him so dumb too. I like there are a lot of things that you can do in filmmaking that aren't necessarily how they were done historically, but they work because that's how we understand like you have to translate the past in order to be understood by the future. That's why I think Keira Knightley's 2005 Pride and Prejudice works so well, is because no, that's not exactly how Jane Austen wrote it, but the proposal scene in the rain is done in such a way that modern day viewers can fully understand the heightened emotion of that scene and
Mhm.
the like lingering sexual tension. All of these things, they have to be translated. And so
Yeah.
yeah, maybe in
Because
the
it's a
day people
movie,
boxed
right?
like
If you're
this.
making a movie adaptation of a book or of a just an older show, you know what I mean? You have to adapt it to the style of movie. That's what an adaptation is. Otherwise, I would just read the book.
Why'd they make him go like this?
I did boxing in law
I
school.
did
It's the
boxing in law
lamest
school.
thing you could say.
To a man holding a gun to
To
your face.
me, even if he wasn't holding a gun, if it was me and I like don't have boxing experience, if someone came up to me and said I did boxing in law school, I could knock him out for sure. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Law school? I don't think they're known for their athleticism. I'm sorry.
And they like
There are any
they
lawyers watching this? Get wrecked.
get wrecked and get good.
Get a different
Like
hobby too. Jeez.
they make such a big point about him coming back to the town, and I don't even remember the name of it because it makes no difference to me at all. It made no
No,
impact on me.
it could be
They make
literally
such a big
anywhere.
it could be like yeah, let's I don't even know.
Except for nowhere in Utah where it was filmed for whatever reason. It could be
Yes!
there.
Why couldn't they have just filmed it in Utah? So it's he goes back to Provo, but they make such a big point about him being from there. But he
Uh-huh.
gives the vibe of someone who has never stepped foot out of
He's
the
a
city
total
ever in his
stranger
life.
to everyone there. The place itself, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I think this man was
Wild West
born a week
customs.
ago.
He literally gives that vibe. He's so incompetent. He doesn't use guns. He doesn't believe in guns. And you think maybe that's going to be like a thing that they're going to like explore a little bit. Oh, maybe main character he doesn't use guns. That's going to be, something that we
He's like
can
Batman.
learn about him. He's like Batman. He's like, I don't believe in guns. Or like Andrew Garfield's character in Hacksaw Ridge. Maybe this could be an emotionally impactful thing that we learn about him later on. No,
No,
he just doesn't ever talk about it again. The film never explores it. And when he
no.
does use a gun, they just flip a switch and say he uses guns now. Yay. And there's no meaningful thing that happens from this thing to this thing.
Yeah.
It's just he doesn't
What I
use guns
thought was
until
like,
he does.
there's a scene early on where they're trying to find the Comanches who have broken the treaty, and then it turns out that it's a couple of white guys. Typical. Anyway, what did security do about it? Anyway, so they get there, and there's two moments in that scene that are like exactly what you're saying. He first of all says, I haven't shot a gun in 9 years. So you're like, ooh, Lord, because that's the amount of time that she stopped writing to him too. Ooh.
Ooh, ooh.
And then also
Don't take note of that because it never comes
because
up
it's not going to
again.
come up again. It doesn't matter. He just like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't stick to his hobbies very well. That's kind of the vibe. It doesn't seem like there's any particular reason that he stopped shooting 9 years ago. He just was like, damn, now that I think about it, I haven't shot a gun for
This
nine
is
years.
this is gonna work better. What's this? Like, is that actual form
I
that anyone ever
genuinely have
had?
never, because I have seen like, you see like drawings of people doing this, but like, you would break your own wrist immediately. What do you mean? There's absolutely no power behind this. It's like you're sprinkling a little salt onto a meme. Like, what are you talking about?
I feel like that's how Wyatt would punch.
Which isn't homophobic to say. Anyway, then he also like he tries to fire a warning shot and it ends up knocking the thing into them, which again would have been
Could have
really,
been
really funny.
funny.
It would have been so
It
funny if
could
this
have been
movie was
good.
funny. Like when I
That's
watched it, it was like, oh, oh,
it's
I
all of
wish that
these
were
good things
funny.
wasted because that kind of thing happens in The Legend of Zorro. This is what I'm talking about. Antonio Banderas has like this. First of all, we have like an actual Mexican actor, and he's like, well, no, he's from Spain, isn't he? Spanish actor, and he's like, I'm here, and I'm a little incompetent at first, but damn it, I'm confident I'm going to figure this out. And he does. He stumbles his way into success because it's kind of campy. It's kind of fun. It's Antonio Banderas learning from Hannibal Lecter,
Hmm.
and I don't remember his name, but like there's a lot of
No,
accidental
it's actual
success.
Hannibal. It's the
The
character.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah, you would think yeah, there'd
He
be
has
more human
several
flesh
hobbies.
eaten in that one than in this one. No.
No.
But like I this is okay, I've got it. I found the words. This
Okay.
movie is trying to be a musical. It's doing the thing. It's
Yeah.
doing the thing that musicals do where they hide it in marketing that it is a musical. So they make it seem like it's not a musical because they want to market it to people who don't like musicals, but the people who don't like musicals will go into it, realize it's a musical and hate it because they've been tricked into watching a musical, and the people who like musicals hate it because they half-assed making a musical. That's
Yeah.
exactly what this movie did with Lone Ranger. It makes you feel stupid for caring about the original movie. It's for people who haven't watched the original Lone Ranger, but also they tried to get it marketed to people who also like the Lone Ranger, and you can't do both of those things. You make
Right.
people feel stupid for coming in liking the original movie, but you also make it so dumb that it's inaccessible for people who don't have the nostalgia connected to it. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? Do you see it? Do
Yeah.
you see it? Do
Yeah.
you see it? Yeah, it's those two things. It tried to do both of these things. It tried to market it to people who don't know about the thing and to people who know about the thing, but it makes both of them feel dumb for coming in to see this thing.
Right.
Because they make you feel so stupid for caring about it. Every
It's like
time
we
they
were saying
ask,
earlier,
what's with
like
the mask? The mask is stupid, right, guys? What kind of a character would wear a mask? Even though the first scene that they say that he's robbing a bank, it makes perfect sense that a damn bank robber would wear a mask during a bank robbery. What? Like, why would you, during a bank robbery, say to the guy robbing the bank,
what's with the
he's wearing a
mask?
mask? That's kind of cringe. Maybe to hide his identity because of the crime that he's committing?
Literally so stupid. And it's like we were saying
Hey,
from the very beginning, it's
oh my
overstimulating and
gosh.
underwhelming. You know, it's boring. They're trying to do too many things and they end up doing none of the things. And
Yeah.
it shows in like literally every aspect of the movie.
Yes. Yes. Why'd they do that?
I don't know.
Why?
They were
Like,
really riding on like the Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter duo. They're like, this is gonna get butts in seats. We don't have to think about literally any other aspect of the production.
and they didn't. Like, I don't
I
know,
don't
man.
understand his how he can direct movies that are so good, Rango and like, you know, the first
Pirates of the
part
Caribbean.
of Pirates of the Caribbean. Because
Yeah.
it kind of, you know,
But obviously, yeah.
obviously we all know that.
When we talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, at least I talk about the first three movies.
Yeah, like three-ish. They shouldn't have
Yeah.
made so many.
No,
They
they kept
kept
making
making
them.
them.
They did.
Like, stop
They just
doing
keep-
that.
I'm pretty sure they're still churning them out to this day.
It's like that thing of, you know, when a movie or a TV show has like a season, like a three-season arc or something,
Uh-huh.
and the first three seasons are like beautiful and perfect, and then they get renewed even though they were kind of done with the story. So then season four and five are just like obviously rough, obviously weren't meant to be part of the story.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like Chuck, which was like really, really good. And then the last season, they were like just clearly out of ideas and they had to create conflict for no reason.
This whole movie feels
That's
like
how the
conflict
movie
for no
is.
reason.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I think we should do basic plot summary, run through it real quick, and then I have more notes of specific details. But like, okay, the bare bones of this movie, it could have been salvaged. I think is the point that we've been saying this whole time is like there were a lot of things in this movie that could have been done well and the basic
Yeah.
structure of it. So the, okay, actually this part bugged me as well. The whole movie is technically a flashback. It's like a story because we
Yeah.
start in 1933 with a little boy going into a carnival and meeting Tonto as a museum exhibit. And Tonto tells him the
And it
story.
was 1933, but still.
hmm hmm I just like that whole aspect of it could have been cut completely. There was no reason that it needed to be told in a flashback. There's
No.
none. That added nothing to it. It repeatedly broke
Oh,
my
it
immersion.
added runtime.
Oh, yeah, you're so right. Because this movie absolutely had to be 150 minutes.
Yeah.
I watched this movie for so long. So long. So much of my day it took up.
And it just kept being like, as soon as it was about to like maybe get good, they'd just be like,
They just
flashback to the
throw in
little boy
another
with
damn
his
curve.
stupid little circus peanuts. And he's like,
Oh my
No, you're
gosh.
remembering the story wrong. And Tonto was like, I was literally there. And the boy is like, How are you? What? And then that doesn't matter either. It's like, is it his imagination? Is it really happening? And they mummified
Exactly.
Tonto wrong and accidentally made him immortal? Doesn't matter. It's never going to come up. It doesn't matter
Because
at
he
all,
looks like he's been mummified. He looks worse than the mummy in the movie The Mummy.
which is easy to do because the mummy in the movie The Mummy is hot as hell.
He's sexy hot. He's beautiful and gorgeous. This from when he was still juicy, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
And like again, because part of the problem is that they hired Johnny Depp to do it, but also they put him in the scariest old person makeup I've ever seen.
It's so bad. It
He's
doesn't
so
even look,
surreal.
it
It's
looks
so
wrong.
creepy. It's awful and bad.
It's so bad. And there's a lot of movies that do old person makeup and it's fine
Well,
and it isn't scary. It just looks like an old guy.
yeah,
This
like
movie, I
okay.
genuinely had to look up twice if there was a different actor for old Tonto. I was like, it can't be.
Yeah,
There's
they hire a
no
Native
way.
American to play young Tonto and old Tonto, but not normal Tonto.
Yeah.
No, it's Johnny
It's
two of
the
those
whole
three.
time, but they just make him look like disgusting.
Movie like The Phantom of the Opera, right? 2005 with Gerard Butler.
Hmm.
Um, those old people at the beginning, they are played by their same actors, but I did not know that for years and years because they just look like old people. I thought they just hired old people.
It's just like the makeup is done like kind of naturally in a way that you're like, that's an old guy and not like that's a young guy in like offensive makeup.
Yeah, and also they
Like
have it through a
racist,
filter,
racist
a
and
racist
ageist
filter.
for
There
some
is
reason.
literally a scene where Johnny Depp playing an Indian character, he is also dressed up as a Chinese man. How he's somehow doing two hate crimes at once?
Yeah. And remember, you have to remember that he agreed to do this role so that he could right the wrongs of the past. That's what he said with his own mouth.
He did. And they did that. They did that. They did that on purpose
They
and they
let him
filmed it
do
and they
it.
put it in a movie and they edited it and they didn't even cut that out.
And they
They
spent like
had a team
millions and
of
millions of
people.
dollars on it.
They did. So the whole flashback structure, I'm sure they included as a way to excuse any plot holes or inconsistencies. They're like, oh well, he's misremembering it, or he's telling the story to the little kid. He's telling it. Woo! J don't do that. Then make a competent story, and then you don't have to write in an excuse for your story being stupid and having plot holes.
Right, right.
Just cut that out. That could have saved us what? I mean, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Not that long.
The thing
No,
about
nowhere near long enough.
the thing about unreliable narrator is that it's supposed to be intriguing and or fun, and not just like frustrating that you can't even tell what's supposed to be happening in the story.
So they tried to do that. But the story starts with John Reed is on the train back to Provo, Utah, his hometown.
Hmm.
And on the same train is Butch Cavendish, good villain name for a Western, played by a very spooky looking man.
Hmm.
And again, he's an element that
Could have been really
could
cool.
have been done real well. Yeah, he's chilling. He's a scary looking guy. and Tonto also these two are sitting next to each other and they're imprisoned together. And Butch Cavendish, they state this several times in the movie. He is being brought to Provo, Utah to be hanged, to be
Yes.
executed. That is the
Mhm.
purpose. He has been through trial and he has been sentenced to death. He is going to be hanged. That's
Mhm.
the purpose.
Mhm.
And so explain to me why no less than half a dozen times throughout the movie, John Reed says, no, he deserves a proper trial. He deserves a proper trial. Bitch, he had that. Sentenced to death means sentenced to death.
Yes,
I don't think
sentence.
anyone really
Like
cares.
by the
Like,
court system.
by the court systems, yes. And we find out later that the evil mayor at the beginning is surprise evil, even though, I
Obviously.
think,
Name
I
a
wouldn't even,
Western where the mayor isn't
isn't
surprise
an evil
evil.
bad guy?
That's so
This is the thing
stupid.
about
You can
Rango,
tell from
too,
the
is,
beginning. He comes up onto the stand and he's talking to the people, and you're like, ooh, that's kind of a sinister guy. Of
and he says,
course.
to
I've
the
seen
Comanche,
movies before. I know they're
I've
supposed
seen
to
a movie
go.
before. I know this. And the thing about Rango is that the mayor is evil, and the movie knows that you know. So it's like, we're not gonna say it yet, but we're all on the same page, aren't we?
I'm like dropping
Wink.
hints that the mayor
That
is
it's
evil.
evil. Yeah, and but this movie is it takes itself so seriously with it. Like no one could have ever guessed that this mayor is evil. And it's like again, we have seen movie before. We have seen a Gore Verbinski movie before. We know. Yeah,
I
like
understand
his
movies.
first
Like
scene
I
is him
understand
flipping the pocket watch
story
into his
structure.
hand. Yes, yes, we
Like I
understand
get it. You know what I
westerns.
mean? It's
The
like
mayor is evil. You don't need to pat yourselves on the back so much for like, ooh, mayor is evil twist. Like we could have just been on the same page the
it's
whole
the
time.
oldest trick
So
in the book.
literally, it's been done so many times. Mayor is evil.
Yeah,
He's
and then it is
intentionally
weird that they, like you were saying in the speech, he's talking to all the white people and the two indigenous people who are there, just the two of them, and he's like, as long as we have peace in the land, we'll uphold the treaty, which is like, isn't that the point of the treaty? So that's like just kind of a redundant thing to say. And the
yeah,
natives just like nod and
stoically
leave.
on horses.
Of course, yeah. And they're in the front of the crowd, by the way, but they are on horses. They're blocking everybody's view. They stoically nod without saying a word, and then they leave before he's done with his announcement. So why were they even there? You know what I mean? They clearly don't matter, except just to be like, no, 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 there is actual Native American representation in the movie because those guys are, you know,
This it's like
annoying. It's like, why are they there if they're not going to do anything?
yeah. You're trying to make a statement about Native American roles in typical Westerns, but you're just doing the same things that they did.
Yeah, you know that
So you're
thing
not
about
making a statement
how
about it. You're just doing that thing.
yeah, here if your satire doesn't have a clarity of purpose, you've just
Exactly.
you've made the thing again. Yeah, yeah.
Let me here. I'm gonna get some markers for storytelling purposes.
Yay!
Okay,
I
I've got
love
one.
markers for storytelling purposes.
Oh, goody, oh boy, I'm glad. Okay, there are so many main characters in this movie because there's too much going on. So I'm gonna have, okay, so we've
Yeah.
got this one is John Reed, right? Okay.
Okay.
This pink one is Evil Mayor. This orangish one is Blood Guy, Butch Cavendish. So
Okay, great.
they're a team, right?
Yes, of
Butch
course.
Cavendish is being shipped in from out of town to be hanged here. We find out later it's because Evil Mayor is teaming up with him and gonna like break him out of jail and rescue him. Um,
That could
but
have been a
again,
fun triple R jailbreak situation
it could have
if
been.
we
It
cared
could
about
have
any of
been.
these characters.
If we care, yeah, at all in
Yeah.
any way. But John Reed comes in to save the day to
Yay.
stop them from killing the man who has been brought here to be killed.
And he is a bad guy too. It's like I understand you want to do your due diligence as an up and coming lawyer or whatever, but like he eats people for real.
He does that. He has eaten folk before, and also they talked about this in his trial that he went to already,
Because he
and
already
that he's
had one, because he did have a fair trial, like he was represented by a lawyer in
yeah,
court.
because your brother caught him because your brother's a
Yeah,
like a lawman
yeah.
and good at his job
So
and
he's
also
like been
takes
through
actually
this
takes care of
already is
people.
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So your brother did the legwork and then you immediately allow him to escape. Your brother's death is on your hands. I hate this guy so much.
He's
I
so
because
stupid.
like he's so dumb. Like
Because he
I
runs
already
out
have
like in
problems
the scene
with
where his
the
brother dies. And he was like, no, no, stay with me. Like I had like paid a little bit less attention in the scene before that, but I still was like, oh, I didn't realize he cared so much for this guy. I was like, what is his
Yeah,
relationship with it? Like, I know they're brothers, but like they don't seem to get along literally at
no,
all.
they
He
don't
shows up
like
in
each
town.
other.
He shows up in town, and the sister-in-law like, gently cleans his face, and it's like, oh, it seems like he's taking care of you, and she's like, yeah, in his way, which is like subtly hinting that she's in love with the wrong brother. You know what I mean? But then, like, literally,
Hmm.
why? Like, there's so much tension in this family for no reason, and he's like mad
No,
at
that
the
they
brother
never talk about.
for marrying his lover, but then also like isn't mad at his brother at all in any way, and is like traumatized at his death. But then it's like, then why, if you didn't want him to die, why did you let the bad guy go who would have killed him? But then it wasn't even like it could have been. It would be interesting if he was kind of like shady, you know what I mean? And he let him go to take vengeance on his brother for marrying the lover. But then it kind of like just falls flat on that too.
Again, this movie
He's not morally
should.
gray. He's like whatever. He's not black or white or gray. It's just absolutely nothing.
He's
He's somehow,
grayish.
I don't know how he could do that. To be like not morally gray because he's ambiguous, but to be not morally gray because he doesn't have any,
He contributes literally
he has
nothing.
no personality.
He's like
That's
if a
so
sexy
weird.
lamp were not sexy. I
Lamp.
think Armie Hammer isn't a like is he can be an attractive guy.
Yeah.
Again, man
Not
from
in this
Uncle. I was
movie though,
like,
because
okay,
I think, yeah,
blonde
I
man
think when he's in a good role and he's like shining as an actor, you can totally
and
see it.
has like charisma and
But then
stuff.
when he's in a role where you don't care about his character, his performance is so lackluster you like can't even see his face anymore. You're like, that's not a hot guy. That's just kind of a
He's a
amorphous
piece of
person. You know what I
cardboard.
mean?
That's
Yeah.
exact. He is so boring and bland and tasteless and nothing. He
Yeah.
can't even be morally upright in an interesting way. Batman doesn't use guns because guns killed his parents, and that's a thing. He won't
Yeah.
ever touch a gun. He'll beat the crap out of a guy, though,
Yeah.
but he will never ever kill somebody. He won't cross that line. And that's a very important thing for him. And they can explore that in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
Why doesn't this guy like guns?
Because he
Why
has a
is he so
backstory. This guy like
insistent?
has like tiny little shreds of backstory, but you can't piece them together. There's not enough evidence.
No. So if you're telling this story to an audience who has never heard of the Lone Ranger, we get
Right.
nothing from it. I don't know if the Lone Ranger has a good backstory. I genuinely don't. If he does, though, then you're letting me down and also the people who know his backstory because you didn't bring that to light in an interesting way or in any way. You didn't
Yeah.
bring it to light. I know nothing about this guy. I'm like, Dan is the real victim of this whole movie. He has a wife who clearly doesn't love him. He's got a son who forgets about his existence the moment that Uncle John comes into the picture. He did the work. He caught the bad guy, and his idiot brother let him go again, only for him to be shot and have to pay the price. He was a good man. Why did they do why literally
And
why couldn't he have been the main
and
character?
again, it's not even commentary on anything.
No, they're
Like
not
you're never
saying
gonna, when you
anything.
watch the movie, you're not gonna be like, wow, it was a tragedy that that guy died, or like, wow, we really should be thinking more about Native American representation and what, you know what I mean? They're like all of
Yeah.
these things you have to extrapolate by because of how bad it is. You're like, I have to have something to think about
Yeah,
during this
because you
movie.
have
But
sunk 2.5 hours into it.
they're
So
not
you
telling
have
you to
to
think about these things. You're not being led into these discussions because the film is thoughtful.
there has to be meaning in it because if not, then you just wasted 2.5 hours of your precious, very limited time on this earth.
Hmm.
And those
And
two
why
things
would
are
you do
very
that?
hard to reconcile.
Hmm.
So there has to be meaning in it, right? There's got
Hmm.
no, it's got to be commentary because then it would have been nothing.
Because
You
then,
know what?
no, 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 they're talking, when they say that he's
The,
the wrong brother, you're supposed to actually think about that. I
the
watched the
other
movie
thing,
yesterday,
oh,
last night. Beautiful.
really?
Super chill. It was like the Totoro of live action Mongolian slash German films about a little girl and her dog.
Aw.
And I know people throw that phrase around a lot, but it was really true. Anyway, it was a super cute movie and I enjoyed it a lot. And I went with Trinice. And
I love Trinice.
there's like a moment where she's in the
Ah,
home
baby.
of like an
Come
old
here.
woman who has like the old woman like leathery face with like smooth
Nice.
cheeks and then it kind of wrinkles around her mouth.
Yeah.
Incredible. She looks like that in real life.
Not
It's
even creepy old
amazing.
person makeup.
No, she's just regular
Hello.
old. Yes. Anyway, she like holds a needle in one hand and then she has like grains of
I
rice
know,
and
baby.
she like drops them on and she's like, okay, now you try. And then the little girl is like dropping the grains of rice. Anyway, she's saying like it's a object lesson about how hard it is to be reincarnated as a human again. And that's why human life is so precious and valuable because it's so rare. This is the
Oh.
story that she teaches to this little girl. And you're like, it's like a genuinely nice moment and you're like, ooh, it like twists your heart a little bit. Like, oh, this life is
Yeah.
like so precious and valuable. And what I'm saying is when Mary Oliver asks, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? The answer should not be, I'm going to watch The Lone Ranger 2013, starring Armie Hammer and for some reason Johnny Depp.
Johnny
2.5
Depp.
hours that I'm literally never going to get back. Things to do.
I put it on in the background while I was doing other things too. And even that
Same.
was a
And
waste of
even then,
time.
I was
That
like,
was too much time spent on this movie.
because it's like now you're half-assing two things. It's like whatever project you're working on and the movie. When you could whole-ass one thing, which is like just the project and not the movie. Don't do
Not the movie. That's not even an
it.
option. Oh my gosh. It's just so disappointing. There are so many things. Like, I think that the characters really carry a plot instead of the other way around. I think
Mhm.
that I don't even know if that's a controversial thing. I think that the characters are more important than a well-developed plot. I think you can have interesting characters in a bad plot and make it work, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And I think like when I was in my film analysis class, we talked about how like some stories are like very character centric and then everything else kind of falls into place and some are really plot centric. And the more I thought about it, I was like every single movie that I like the plot, it's driven by the characters still. Like every plot
mm.
driven movie that I've seen, I interpret it as a character driven movie. It was hard for me to be like, this is plot driven because no, then it would be character driven. Like,
That's the thing. It's because that's
I
with this
really want
movie,
to
it feels
care
like the
about the
plot is just
people in it.
happening to the characters.
Mhm.
They and
They
that's
have no
boring.
say in it. They have no choice. And so then
No
it's like,
agency.
why is literally anybody doing any of these things? Because there's no, do you know what I mean?
Yes, because if
It
it would
doesn't
happen
seem
with
like they're
them or
doing
there or
anything on
not.
purpose.
Yeah. The thing about Romeo and Juliet is that if Romeo wasn't there, none of that would have happened. If Juliet wasn't at that party, none of that would have happened. Not
Hmm.
like it is so character driven, and the plot happens as a direct result of their actions. In the movie Rango,
Hmm.
Rango chooses to lie and to pretend to be someone that he's not. And
Yeah.
he accidentally builds himself up as a symbol of hope to these people. And they're trying to solve the mystery of the missing water. Yeah, but that's secondary. The main goal, the main driving force of the movie is Rango's identity crisis. He is
Yeah.
not who he says he is, and then he has to reconcile that with the idea that he has let these people down. And Bill Nye is there with a machine gun rattlesnake tail. First
So,
of all, cool driving force of the movie. We
yeah.
have a good character who is, facing a crisis of his
Hmm.
own making that he did
Hmm.
to himself. He did that to himself, let's be clear. And also, that's a sick ass villain. So, this
So what are
movie,
we doing here?
what are we like? John Reed is so boring. He never makes any choices and he never changes because he
Hmm.
continues to be lame and boring and dumb the whole time.
And what is he going
Everyone
to
hates him
change?
in universe.
What's
That's
he
a
going to
thing.
change from and to? You know what I mean? Because if you don't have a
Yeah.
personality, it's hard to change your personality into something else. You have to have
Yeah.
something
Anything
to
times
start
zero
with.
is still zero.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch a movie where, like, okay, I think The Office works really well because Michael Scott is such a frustrating character, but at times there are moments where his humanity shines through and you feel so much empathy for him. And like, he's just lonely. At his heart, he just wants friends and he tries his best to be a good boss. And that happens over the course of the whole series where you grow to love him more and more instead of just being frustrated by him. But that doesn't mean that he's not still frustrating. He still has serious flaws,
Hmm.
but also you care about him, you know? You can have these two things coexist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A stupid
This
character could still be a sympathetic character.
exactly, yeah. John Reed, everyone hates him in universe except inexplicably for Rebecca. No, she's never given any reason as to why she
No.
loves him.
Because
None at
again,
all.
they have like basically no backstory. They just have snippets that end up not mattering.
And
And
barely any time together at all.
here's
Like
the thing.
anything.
If you were in love with somebody, would you marry their brother?
Yeah. How did that happen?
It's so weird. Like, was there literally nobody else? It was like marry Dan or die, not just like, you know what I mean? Like, why would you choose to be married to the brother of the man that you really love? Even if he
Yeah.
is a better man, it seems like it's too conflicting. Why couldn't she have married somebody else? It just
The
offers like weird tension in the family that never is addressed or resolved.
mm-mm. It feels like they were going to set up like that John maybe was the real father of her child, but he was going off to college and needed to be married or else.
Right.
That's the backstory that I constructed just now in my head that could maybe explain this behavior.
Hmm. Well, the thing is
Again,
that makes a
not
lot of
anything that was
sense.
explored
And
in
like
canon.
you made it up just now on the spot,
About 2 seconds. Yeah.
and it would have been better. Though if the whole movie was discovering that, it would be a better movie. You know what I mean? That would be interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Because then, Dan would have to face the fact that he does love this woman, but also knowing that she never really loved him and
Mhm.
that this boy is not his own, but he still loves him like a father. And again, even in this fake backstory that I've created, I still like Dan better.
Still,
This is
Dan is the sympathetic
unbelievable.
character.
Dan,
He's still the
and he
one that
has
you feel for,
personality.
the one that has personality, the one that you want to win, and it's sad that he won't. This is the tragedy of
This
Dan
is
Reed.
literally, and I'm always saying that. Oh my gosh. It's like if you're gonna make this okay, you can't make Dan so likable. You can't make him the hero that everybody wanted the movie to be about, including in universe characters.
Yeah.
You have to make him unlikable or I don't know. I
Like
haven't even had time to think
if
about
he
what this
was
movie could have been.
bad to Rebecca, you know what I mean? That it would be like, oh, on the surface, he seems like this like public servant and hero and everybody loves him, but at home, in his heart, he's actually a bad person. That would be interesting, and that would explain when when John comes to town and Rebecca's like, yeah, he's good to me in his way. It would be like I'm subtly hinting that he's not good to me. You know what I mean? But then
Hmm.
that's just like not it. There's never a
He
reveal of
he just
like he
genuinely is
relinquished.
that good
He
of a
just
guy.
was like a nice guy the whole time.
A
So
good
why
guy
would
and a
she
good
say that?
lawman.
Why would she phrase it that way if she
What
wasn't
a
hinting at something? You know what I mean?
like girl.
They just drop they're like opening 1,000 doors and then going through one of them. So then you're left with like
Yeah.
so many questions.
And then at the end, so John comes back and he's saving Rebecca. This is the end of nearing the end of the 2.5 hours that I've wasted my life on on in this movie. And they're riding a horse together, and he's thrown her off a train to land on the horse, and he also jumps on the horse.
Uh-huh.
Somehow doesn't break things. This doesn't hurt either of them. I don't
No.
like. There are a lot of things that I can suspend my disbelief on, and maybe it's just because I'm already being pissy about this movie. But Mm-mm. That would hurt.
You're not
You'd go,
Bahubali.
owie. Especially she didn't know there was a horse. She was fully expect. It's like it's not like she was bracing herself and ready for it. No. She just
Right.
the Capitals game is starting. Wow, life is beautiful, actually. Okay. I just remember there is hope.
Yeah.
Good things to watch in my future.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then
You
he's
can
like, she
regain your
slaps
two
him
and a half hours of time by actually
by watching
devoting
a
attention to things that
hockey
you
game.
like.
Yes. Okay, it's gonna be fine. I can recover from this.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing about the Lone Ranger is the damage isn't permanent. It's okay.
Because it's kind
So
of forgettable, I guess.
it's so forgettable. It's so forgettable.
Hmm.
The only reason that I'm remembering any of these things is because I wrote them down as it was happening. There were several times that I went to write a note and was like, oh, that was 2 minutes ago. I don't remember what I was going to write. And I was sure as hell wasn't going to rewind it to find
No.
out.
Because then it
No,
would
I'm
take
powering through
longer
this.
than the
Yeah.
2 hours and 30 minutes that it already is.
Yeah. And I'm not doing that to myself.
No.
So anyway, so he threw her off onto a horse. He jumped onto the horse and then she's riding backwards and he's riding forwards, and then she slaps him for unknown reasons, probably
Mhm.
because he threw her onto a horse off a train. And then he's like,
Mhm.
wrong brother, right? And she said, not today, and she kisses him. And girl, your husband died 3 days ago.
Mhm.
And he just mentioned him. It's not like you can forget that, oh, I was married. He's like, oh, you probably are wishing I was Dan, right? And she's like, no. Mwah. Okay, a couple things too. They're riding a horse. They're riding a horse that's galloping at the speed of a speeding train. They're riding alongside a train and they're galloping, and the horse, and they're kissing at the same time. No, I'm
Mhm.
not buying that.
And
I'm
then
not
they
buying
break
that
apart and they
at
spit
all.
all of their teeth out of their mouth.
That could have been funny. That
That
could
would
have
have
been
been
funny.
funny.
No, they didn't do that though. It's a romantic moment, I guess. Even though,
Which doesn't
again,
make sense because it's not like Dan was a bad husband to her.
no.
There's
And
no
he
reason,
just
there's no
stayed.
reason for her to be harboring this love for John. If Dan was good to her, she hasn't seen John in 9 years, and he literally just died.
Dan just died. John has nothing to contribute, nothing to bring to the table. He's so boring. It's amazing that she didn't forget that he ever even existed as soon as he left town.
She
But
hasn't
no,
been
she
with
comes.
him for 8 years. Obviously, he's not that imp like they haven't been in contact. Why does it matter?
That I hate that so much. Like if you're gonna make a romance, she can't have been married at the beginning to someone that clearly loved her and was good to her and a good man, etc.,
Mhm,
etc., and
mhm.
also has just died.
Like, there's
If Dan had
no
died a while ago,
reason for the like emotional cheating because he was good to her the whole time. It's not like she was waiting for his death because he was like abusive.
yeah,
Like, show
he
some
was a
respect. It's like in The
exactly.
Princess Bride where he's like, when you heard that Wesley died, did you get engaged the same day or did you wait a whole week out of respect for the dead? Like, you think it's like he's just being pissy, but it's because he watched this movie and he's genuinely worried.
It's like, oh no, girls do that. Nope.
No.
No, Wesley, promise. Oh my gosh. Also, I think Wesley is the only blonde man I've ever been attracted to. Certainly not Armie Hammer in this movie.
Not in this movie.
Ugh, gross,
They take
icky.
all of his charisma away.
Somehow. Anyway, Evil Mayor is trying to violate Indian treaty to get silver, and that's the movie. That's the
And
whole
that's
movie.
it. That's
So
the
why you
movie.
ask would it take 2.5 hours long? Is because they set up one villain of the movie and then surprise twist halfway through. There's actually two, even though we knew that. We knew that the whole time. So just like we
No.
could have cut so much anyway, so and they have like four false death scenes where they keep trying to kill these guys, and every single time they're like, how many times do I have to kill this guy? And every time it's like
Ha ha ha
at least
ha.
once more, Miss Swan. But not in a fun way where it's like, how many times do I have to what's that from? Oh, Gary Oldman, his peacock in Kung Fu Panda 2. He kills the panda like 3 times, and at the end he's like, I'm supposed to killing this panda. And that's
Yeah,
funny.
and
That's
it's
what I'm thinking
funny.
of when that one it should have been like this. It should have been Gary
Yeah.
Oldman. I don't know. It just goes on for so long, and so much of it's just empty space. And like you could have done the metaphor about westward expansion and greed being likened to cannibalism, and like if you must talk about Wendigo, then do it respectfully through the right lens and
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. But if not, then you could still have done like you didn't have to do that. You could have just talked about westward expansion and greed
Mhm.
being the
Just
thing. And also
separately.
there's a guy who is a cannibal in it.
Yeah,
Like you
and that's
you
kind of
you didn't
gnarly.
that's gnarly as
It doesn't
hell.
have to
Yeah, he's
be the
got
only
like the
thing. Yeah.
scar on his lip. And like it's sick. He's a good villain. It's just a shame that he's in this stupid, dumb ass movie.
Yeah.
He was carrying the weight of it. Also, okay, two Pirates of the Caribbean ripoffs that I noticed where he's stealing from Gore Verbinski is stealing from himself. Number one is when they're on the tr oh my gosh. I thought you were like doing a number one. I thought you were gonna do a listing thing for me. That's why I didn't react at first. But no, there's a
No, I'm
cat up
sorry.
there.
There was a cat up there, and he did that thing where he stretched and he looked like Halloween shaped.
Oh, I
Anyway,
love it. I love it when they do that. That's such a cat behavior.
yeah.
And I'm like, you really are a little guy. You're like a
Yeah.
little cat. Oh, number one is Johnny Depp is
And
swinging
then it
around in
was
a
for real.
chain
Hmm.
on on the train, they're swinging around on a chain,
Yeah.
like how Captain Jack Sparrow did in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I was like, that's literally like this
Yeah.
is. I mean, it's the same point in the movie too. It's
It's
like
not even an homage. It's like the same
it's a copy
actor
paste moment.
doing the same.
Literally,
Yeah,
like you
it's
said, he's
annoying.
playing Johnny Depp light badly. And number two is they tried to do, the thing in the Pirates movies where they've got the two gay pirates and they're um
Yeah.
the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Those
they're
guys are
like
also in this movie.
they are, but worse.
Yeah.
Badly.
Well,
They've got
everything
the
about
whole
this movie is like that movie, but worse.
it's like pirates,
So,
but worse. Yes. If you're gonna have like magic in it and supernatural stuff, commit. It's like
yeah.
they kind of towed the line with it like a little bit, like, ooh, he's a spirit walker, but not. No, that's not real. That's fake. That's made up. Unless, and that's another thing with the Native American stuff is because Tonto is talking about this stuff. He's like, this is real and it's a danger. And then like John has visions. He
Mhm.
touches Silver and has visions, and then he is brought back to life miraculously with no wound after being shot
Yeah.
and killed. He's brought back to life. No, like he's fine. He's totally good.
And so that's just
And
totally
then they go
real
to
and
talk to
something that
the.
happens. But then anytime they talk about actual like Native American like tradition, they're like, well, that's made up though. That's just a silly story we tell to children. And it's
Even
like,
the
well, then
Comanches.
he
They're like,
just
no, that's not real.
he was resurrected just now. And you're saying that
We
nothing else
saw
could
that.
be real, just that one?
No, so it's like it's doing this thing where it's like trying to take these Native American traditions seriously, but then have the Native Americans in the movie be like, no, that's not real. But we have seen, like, we know that it is because we've seen it and we've seen these guys experience it. So then
Yeah.
it just makes everybody look stupid.
And it's
Is
not
it real or is
a
it not?
commentary about leaving the traditions of your ancestors because of the, the westernization of the world. It could have been about that and how like these people choose not to believe things even though you can see that they are real. As the audience, you have that kind of like, irony of like, I can tell that this is real, but you can't tell. It's not that because again, this movie isn't saying anything.
Nothing.
It could have been these things are real and they're really happening, but people are choosing to deny them so that they have a separation from like the stereotype of Indians that they're trying to get away from now in a more modern world.
Mhm.
It could be, something like that, but it isn't.
It could have been 10,000 things.
Hmm.
But every single thing it does, it tries to do, it does the opposite thing. It's like Katy Perry's I'm a Woman music video. It's like, wow. Ugh.
I'm gonna make
Mhm.
a feminist commentary and it's gonna be a satire of the thing, and then it isn't a satire of the thing, it's the thing.
It's the
Also,
thing.
No Doubt
You,
already did that. Gwen Stefani in the 90s
I'm
made
just a
I'm Just a
girl.
Girl. That's all you need. That's like the song about
Send
like
tweet.
satirizing the, infantilization of women and whatever, it's
And
just
you know
they
what?
already did it. And
She didn't stick a gas pump up her butt.
that's true. Not my Gwen Stefani. And also she's just generally cooler. I'll say that.
That's real. That's true. Yeah.
There's not enough love for Gwen Stefani these days.
Love you, Gwen.
Agreed.
Yikes. Yeah. I don't know. It's just disappointing. Like, okay, okay, back to Tonto. There's
Yeah,
his whole
unfortunately, yeah.
back unfortunately, yeah.
We do have to get there.
So his whole backstory is that he traded away his entire tribe's life and well-being to two white men for a cheap pocket watch
Hmm.
for the location of like the source of silver. It's like the source of silver, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, in the world
In
or
the world.
something.
Yeah. Um, and so these two guys murder his whole tribe, leaving Tonto alive for a reason. I don't know. And Tonto has to grow up with this pressure of knowing that he is responsible for the deaths of his tribe.
Hmm.
And then later in the movie, there's another part where the Comanche tribe is ambushing the railroad something and they're escaping. Tonto and the Lone Ranger are escaping on one of those push-pull carts.
Hmm.
And it's like silly, goofy fun as all of these Native Americans are being slaughtered around them.
Yeah.
And they're like, ha 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 ha, wow, nope, don't look, John, nothing to worry about back here. We're good. And you think, okay, weird that you're being jokey right now. But then there's a
Yeah,
moment
like
where
maybe
they're
read the room a little bit.
maybe read the room, but then they have a moment where you think they've read the room. And so we have a parallel moment where Tonto picks up his crow like he did because he's Native American. He has to have a crow. He
Yeah,
picks up his
yeah.
crow from the water,
Well,
from
some
the
sort of
river,
bird, you know.
something. Yeah. And he keeps feeding it. That silly Indian. Oh my gosh.
Oh
Anyway,
no.
he picks up the bird in a similar it's intentionally reminiscent of the scene from earlier where he has to and it's like you think he's going to have to confront this, the idea that he is again responsible for the death of an entire nation. And do you know what he does? He looks to his left, sees a horse in a tree, and says, "Something wrong with that horse."
And you have to keep in mind when you're watching this movie that they are righting the wrongs of the past and giving better Native American representation. Yeah.
Even if we take somehow, if we can just ignore the Native American of it all, easy to do because he's played by a white guy
Yeah.
who throughout the movie is making
Who's
constant comments about
allegedly mixed race 10 generations ago.
maybe,
Maybe he
maybe,
might be
not even
indigenous of some
guaranteed,
kind.
potentially. No, he is saying again and again, white guys, white men. He has a scene, I thought you were Wendigo. Turns out you're just another white man. And it's played so straight. It's supposed to be this serious, hard hitting, impactful moment. And it's like, you're Depp.
For Johnny Depp to say you're just another white guy is like a harrowing level of irony. It's sickening. He's like the definition of just another white guy.
I don't even have anything else. I mean, like, okay, here, okay, even if we ignore all that, right?
Yeah.
If we ignore the Native American of it all, and that's just shitty characterization. Because
Hmm.
that could be a really good emotional moment. And they just sidestep it so fast. Like, we accidentally felt an emotion. Quick, throw a joke in there.
Which
I'd
again
go
goes
in
back to like the irony pilling of it all,
the Joss Whedon of
the
it all.
Joss Whedon
Avengers
of it
came out the
all.
year before,
Ugh.
2012. And yeah, Avengers was good at the time, and I really liked it. But
But
you
it's
know what?
like
I was 12 when it came out.
that's true. We were children at the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's another just classic case of something starting out pretty good, and then they
Pretty
take
good.
it in
And
the
then,
wrong direction and they overdo it and it loses all of its flavor. Like for
yeah.
example, Star Wars sequels, where it's like, oh, we can take this kind of beloved thing and make something new and fun out of it. And that's like could have been such a cool thing. But then instead they were
Yeah.
like, what if we do everything wrong and then we do everything somehow even worse than that? And then somehow
And then we light
Palpatine
it on
returns.
fire, and then it still
Mhm.
hurts.
With
Yeah.
the idea of like two different superhero movies coming together into one superhero movie with two superheroes in it. That's so
Mm.
fun. That could have been so fun, but now literally everything in the world has to be a
Come here, baby.
franchise and it has to be,
Or
what is this, a
else.
crossover episode? Everything has to be a crossover episode. And it has to be
Yeah.
huge and larger than life, and the big bad is going to erase half of society for some reason.
He has good points up until he just murders a bunch of civilians just to show that he means business and to make sure that the audience doesn't sympathize with him too much because, oh no, if they look too closely, they'll realize that they're right.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing of like whichever Spider-Man movie of like the Tom Holland ones where they're in Europe and like the bad guys are just like anti-Tony Stark because he's a billionaire and he like doesn't fight for workers' rights. And you're like, oh, so they're right then. It's just genuinely correct.
It's just, yeah.
Also, why are all the Spider-Man movies about Tony Stark? It's so annoying. But anyway,
Even after he died. Like,
just let him be Spider-Man. Why does he have to be like the superhero of the entire multiverse when he really was just a high
he just
schooler?
was rich. There's this point. Okay, there is a point where they're this is one of the parts where they flash back to the kid at the beginning pretty abruptly so that way
Right.
they don't have to have consistency. So I don't know really how they got into this situation, but there is a scene where John gets shot with an arrow and they both look at it for a split second, and then he does a Sean and Gus shriek before
Yeah.
collapsing.
Yeah. I
And
liked
that
that
was
part. I thought
funny.
it was so funny.
Made me laugh so hard. I remember seeing that in theaters. That is the only scene that I remember watching in theaters when this movie came out. And I remember being 13 and about pissing myself because it was so funny. And then I watched it again
Actually
today. I was
funny.
like, okay, actually they it with that. They had one
He's like
funny scene in this
holding
movie.
up an arrow, and the kid's like, "What's the arrow gonna be?" Oh my gosh, hilarious!
And then
And
we
it,
hear the sound as it changes, and then it changes. That was good. That was funny.
oh my gosh, I mean, and it's like if the whole movie had had that tone, it would have been such a good and funny
It
movie.
would have been good, but you have to remember that we have just seen a man carve out another man's heart and eat it in front of him with his bare
Yeah.
hands and raw. We
Yeah.
watched that happen.
Yeah.
So you have like hard to
So
reconcile a scene
it's
like
like pick a mood.
yeah.
It's like
Wow,
they were
what a roller
making it's
coaster.
like they were making two different movies. They were like, we're trying to reimagine the Lone Ranger once as a silly, campy comedy and once as a horror. And then they just made it into one movie instead of two movies.
Instead of two separate ones. Yeah. Yeah, no, that scene
I did like
was
that
funny.
one.
It was
I
good.
chuckled.
Yeah. It was, yeah. And again, I almost felt embarrassed laughing at it. So much of the rest of the movie was
Yeah.
just dumb as shit. Speaking of shit, there's a point where going back to the whole John is unlikable and the movie treats him as unlikable, and also you're stupid if you care about the original source material. Um, he gets dragged through a pile of horse shit. That's like a thing that happens in the movie. And it could be something,
hmm
maybe, but it's not.
It could be a little bit of funny little slapstick comedy, maybe. If it were a different movie, it would have been.
Maybe like this is the greatest tragedy in this movie is because I love a good Western and I love Ravenous and I love everything that it does. I love the critique of westward expansion and capitalism. We are eating each other. That is phenomenal. What a plot device. You can use that as a critique of actual westward expansion. You can use that as a critique of consumerist mindset today. You can use that for toxic homoerotic relationship. Whatever you want, baby.
hmm
It can be your thing. You just have to mold it to be such. It's like they were given a plate of Legos and said, make something. And they turned them all upside down and threw some of them away and said, here you go. We did it. We made a thing. And it's like,
hmm
no, you didn't. You had all the materials to make a good thing, but somehow we ended up all the sum of all of these things is less than
Yeah.
what they were all worth separately. How's
Yeah.
that happen? But it's so disappointing. Like
It's hard to
every
do.
theme in this movie could have been good. And that's just it's so disappointing to see it because this could have got like I could totally see a universe where I got really into the actual show The Lone Ranger because of this movie
hmm
if it had been good. But it didn't because it
Instead,
didn't make me care about.
it cursed the original material. People are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the Lone Ranger, that's kind of like a stupid story." And then they're
Yeah.
not going to investigate further.
Yeah, because why would I care about that?
hmm The only reason that it exists is so that in Chicken Run they can make that joke, the Lone Free
Free
Ranger.
Ranger.
Because it's the Lone Ranger, but it's also like free range because they're chickens.
That's so good.
hmm
I love that movie. I remember why this page is so short. This is a list of things that I liked.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah. There was one self-aware comment that they didn't mean to be self-aware, but I think ended up becoming self-aware because when they're buried under the ground because the Native American tribe is being totally unreasonable. Like, why do you do
Yeah.
this? What like what? No, they bury them and John says, "Ah, the US Army is coming. Finally, someone to listen to reason." And it's not played for laughs. He says that.
Of course he does.
And that's funny. And I like that a
You
lot.
stupid bastard.
Wow, you're the dumbest person who's ever lived. Wow, he actually
Yay.
believes in the United States justice system.
Yeah.
Even still,
And the military.
and the military. We are
hmm
more than halfway through the movie. And he's still believing this. He hasn't been disillusioned yet. That happens oh my gosh. So much of this movie did not need to happen. It's exhausting. But the general the army, he is there's a scene that again could have worked. There's a scene he's bragging about the damage and the carnage that they inflicted upon the Comanches because they thought that they were attacking settlements, even though it wasn't. It was a group of white men impersonating Comanche tribes in order to violate the treaty so that they could get to the silver mine, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And he's like bragging about it. He's like, everything they did to us, I inflicted tenfold on them, tenfold. And there's a scene where it's revealed that the Comanches didn't do it. And he has this moment of, no, but that would mean that I did all that to them for nothing, that I did that to innocent people. And
Yeah.
the evil mayor capitalizes on that. He's like, yeah, exactly. Can you live with that, having done that to innocent people? And he says, the way I see it, these men are with the railroad, and therefore they are with the government. And then he turns his gun on John. I thought that if the rest of the movie had been anything at all, that would have been phenomenal because
Yeah. That could have been
is
so cool.
so immediately making the realization, saying, no, I can't live with the fact that I would have murdered all of these innocent people because that's awful, but also because of my reputation. I can't handle that. And also, they're offering me so much profit. And then from there on, they have to like kind of take him into the fold, and he's in on their scheme to get the silver.
Yeah.
Like I really liked him because
Yeah, he could
immediately,
have been it could have been a really fun, like interesting conversation about morality if more of the movie was focused on the bad guys
yeah,
instead
but
of the
no.
useless good guys.
We had to
That's
kill
so
Dan,
annoying.
and we had to flash back to the kid at the circus for so long. For why?
some reason.
No.
Why was he there?
Why he didn't need to be. There's no reason.
It was a waste of
reason.
time. It was a waste of production budget.
Waste of old person makeup. The other
Because it
scene that I
doesn't
really
even
liked,
look good.
it looks so scary, bad, and I don't like it at all.
Mhm.
I remember when my grandpa died at the viewing,
Mhm.
they made me look at his body, and even though I was like, I don't want to, and they're like, you'll regret it if you don't. And I can say to this day, no, I regret doing
don't
it.
think
I wish I
that's
wouldn't have
true.
done.
I think like
Because
the thing about regrets is like it has to be something that like you chose to do or not do. So
right.
like if somebody else is like, you will regret this if you don't, it's like, well, why though? Because you just told that to me. I'm not
Hmm.
regretting it.
Yeah, and I think I would have been okay because that wasn't like I don't remember him looking like that.
Hmm.
So like anyway, the point to this story is that I remember Herb looking waxy and gross and dead in his coffin
Yeah.
and looking better than Johnny Depp did in that old person makeup. That one's for you, Herb.
Get wrecked, Johnny Depp. Rest in peace, Whitney's grandpa Herb.
Yeah. What a
Yeah.
phenomenal guy. On the note with the general as well, the other scene immediately following this like realization where he's like almost forced to confront the consequences of his actions, and he immediately runs from that. Interesting. That's when the Comanche tribe, the remainder of it, attacks, and the chief is coming at him and about to attack him, and he runs him through with his sword. The general runs the chief through with the sword, and chief falls to the ground, and then the guy takes his hand away, and you can see in the moonlight his white leather glove, like in his uniform, is stained red with blood, and his hand is shaking, and we just see that shot for a second where the red is so red in the moonlight. And that is good. That's good shit right there.
That's
I
cool.
love that.
If it was
So we
part of
move
a
past that
different movie,
naturally. Horses in the tree. That's funny, right? Can't be feeling
yeah.
any emotions.
Yeah, the thing is like it's like you were saying where Tonto could have had the realization that like all of these people died because of him, and then it could parallel maybe the him saying, "Oh no, if they were innocent, like if this wasn't retribution, I made a mistake," that could be like an interesting parallel of like how do you reconcile so many people having died because
Yeah.
of your actions, right?
Yeah.
It's like between the good guy and the bad guy, we see that they're really actually kind of the same. That could have been cool.
Could have been.
If only
That
we
could
were
have
in
been.
charge of everything ever, life would be so beautiful.
That's real and true. Clock's ticking. Come on. Can't keep making bad movies. Like, give us the reins. We got it. Also, oh yeah. So the whole final scene is an homage to the General, Buster Keaton's The General.
Hmm.
Phenomenal movie. I recommend everybody watch it. It's free on YouTube. All of the positive comments I saw were like, that last set piece was awesome. It was so good. And the whole time I was like, it's good because it's copying The General. It's good because it's another movie. It's not this movie. You like The General.
Hmm.
Everything that this movie is doing, The General already did it better because Buster Keaton was involved. And I love Buster Keaton so much. And like, yeah, it's
Why
fun. And
aren't
the
more
whole
people
movie should
talking
have been
about
like
Buster
that.
Keaton?
Why aren't we? Actually, we should also put The General on our list.
Yeah,
It's a good one. It's
really
so
good.
good. Yeah, and then we could talk about that one instead of having to talk about this one.
Ugh, if only we
Yeah.
thought of that sooner.
No, no. We
Oh
could have talked about
no.
Antonio Banderas' The Legend of Zorro and Buster Keaton's The General, and it would have been the same, even better. And that's the tragedy, is because like the last 20 minutes are fun and they're good. And then the evil mayor is thrown up. And this is the thing. We keep doing like double scenes. We see the bridge blow up in one
Hmm.
scene,
Hmm.
and then 20 minutes later, we have to flash back to them blowing up the bridge again. And I was like, am I having deja vu right now? I thought we did this already. And we
Yeah.
did, but
And
we're
the
just
thing is,
doing it again for some
we're
reason.
just doing it again because then it makes the movie longer.
Yeah. If we cut out all of the unnecessary repeats, this movie would be 45 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
I like
I thought you were gonna say 45 minutes long, like total.
it should have been 45 minutes long.
This movie should have only been 45 minutes. This meeting should have been an email, and this movie should have been 45 minutes long.
Real. There's no reason that it needed to be this long. I watch RRR regularly, and that movie never gets old to me.
Hmm.
And it's so fun. And I get halfway through and I'm like, yay, there's still a movie to watch. This one, I was 20 minutes in and I was like, holy shit, we're not even past
Move faster.
like 2 full hours left. Anyway, yikes. The villain is on the train and then the train collapses off the bridge that was exploded. And we saw that twice just to make sure like we didn't miss it. We
Hey,
saw the bridge
remember?
exploded.
The bridge
Yeah.
exploded.
So he's buried, he falls off with the train and all of the silver that he's hoarded. And yeah, he is buried under a mountain of silver. And that could have been something if
Hmm.
they had let it be, if they had said something with it at all, but they
Yeah.
didn't. And that's it.
My note, this one I already talked about. It says Johnny Depp still. This era of movie really insisted that Johnny Depp is racially ambiguous. And then I had, quote, the screams of my ancestors in the desert world. That's like a line that he says in the movie. So I quoted
Twice.
that and then said, LMAO. That's not your ancestors. That's like some random, that's not even true. That didn't even happen to you. And then also over here, I have the generational chart where I try to figure out
Mm.
how what level of African American Johnny Depp is.
Oh, there's a gay joke.
There was a gay joke. I wrote that down. Lovely
Yeah.
homophobic joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
When
love to
they
see
go
it.
into the, because mine was, cause since I only watched the first half, they go into like
Mhm.
the brothel, they're at the front, and he's like, I'm looking for a
I'm looking
man.
for a man. And the
And the
guy's
guy's
like,
like, mm-hmm.
yeah, I bet you are.
And that's like, could have been funny if it wasn't so weird
And out of nowhere,
and had
what?
nothing to do
Huh?
with anything.
Huh?
Let's see. Is there anything else that I haven't already
We didn't talk
mentioned
about
that's
the
in
two
my notes?
guys, that are not the two fun pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean, but they tried to be
Oh,
real bad.
they tried to be. They
Yeah,
looked the
we've got
same and
yeah,
acted the
one of
same
them
except worse.
the same,
Yeah.
except worse. Yeah, the one he's wearing women's clothes for the whole thing for no apparent reason. He's got a parasol the whole time. He's got his arm is in a sling, which they never explain, and they never real. I guess they don't need to 100%, but it's in a sling in a I'm pretty sure it's a pair of underwear, like a pair of lacy,
I think
like
so. Yeah.
something or other. And he's wearing a fancy frilly bonnet, and it's
Mhm.
like,
And
I just like them pretty things. And that's a like it can be. We saw that in Rango. He's wearing a dress, and it's not
Mhm.
the butt of the joke. It's just like he's an
It's just something that
actor.
happens. Yeah.
It's just something that happens. Yeah, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be the butt of the joke. But in this one, he almost rapes a woman and he's wearing her bonnet. And then the Lone Ranger and Tonto come in and he's like, it's not what it looks like. And it's like, what? This is not the moment to make a joke. Huh?
No.
You were what?
The thing is that none of their jokes land because it's too like emotional whiplash.
This is like that thing that Danny Gonzalez talked about, that one movie where the guy tries to like assault this woman and then she starts crying because she's like, why did he have to be gay? Because she broke up with the guy earlier in the movie because he was gay. Do you know the thing I'm talking about? Do you know the
Uh,
thing? It's like, no. Mm-mm. If you want to joke about a man wearing women's clothes, don't, first of all, but also
mhm.
don't do it in the context of she's
Sexual
go
assault.
run for your life to get away from the man
Yeah.
who's wearing women's clothes. Like,
Yeah.
what? Those two things aren't funny on their own, let
No.
alone combined.
No, no.
What?
Because then combined, it's like perpetuating that thing of like queer people are gonna just kill your children or whatever, you know.
Hmm.
They're predators, etc. I think the only, oh yes, I have two things that I've written down that we haven't just naturally talked about yet.
Okay.
One of them is that I recognize that the character of Tonto is supposed to speak in like broken English because it's like not his language. But then I felt like sometimes he would be talking to Armie Hammer in perfectly fluent English, and then he would talk to like the horse in broken English. And I thought maybe it could be the other way around. Like when he's
Yeah.
talking his own language, it's fluent, and when he's speaking this language that he doesn't speak, it isn't fluent. You know what I mean?
I wonder
And then
what would have been a good way to
also
get around that problem.
it also felt like if you're going to hire a white man, just let him speak English the whole time. It's a little bit rude
Exactly.
to play as a white person, to play a brown person, and make them not be able to speak English. Even though that's the character, it's like,
Especially
mm,
because the one other Native American person in the movie with lines, even though Native Americans play a huge role in the movie,
mhm.
the one other guy with lines speaks perfect English.
Yeah, of course he does.
Perfect English. So, like, clearly it's just a Tonto problem.
Weird.
Also, there's like no other people of color at all in the whole movie except for the one guy who makes the gay joke. And he's like, I bet you are looking for a man.
Yeah.
And a guy
And
who
he's black.
works,
And
and he's
that's,
black.
yeah.
And then there's a guy who works on the farm with Rebecca, and
Mhm.
he gets shot almost immediately.
Yeah, you forget
And
that he was ever a part of it. There's not a lot
yeah,
of people of color in this movie that's about 19th century, like Western expansion in America, where you'd think
mm,
that the main struggle actually would be kind of about race, maybe. They're in Texas and there are no Hispanics there. That's weird.
there is one actually. The woman that not pirate was going to assault, and she has
Well,
one
that's
line. So I
even
can see
better.
how you missed that pretty easily.
Yeah. No, you're right. Never mind. I take it back. There's great Hispanic representation in this movie. One victim. Yeah.
Also, I did see someone arguing that this movie passed the Bechdel test because this woman, the Hispanic woman, I don't know what her name was, but she has a name, and Rebecca are battening the hatches, and Rebecca says, "Get the shutters," and she's like, "Si, senora," and they do, and then they cover the hatches, and they're like, I mean,
They
technically,
had their
two
named
named women.
characters. They're not talking about a man. And the thing is, the point of the Bechdel test is to show how ridiculous it is for these things to not happen. Like it should be a given that there are two women with names who
Okay,
talk
I
to
know,
each
I'm
other
sorry.
in a movie.
Yeah,
Because that's what happens in real life, right? But then sometimes the things that are like really tenuous, but they're like, well, it passes the Bechdel test. It's like, that's not a good thing.
no,
The Bechdel test is the bottom line. You're not supposed to make a movie where two women don't talk to each other or they don't have names, or you know what I mean?
heartbreaking, heartbreaking movie
Yeah.
because it had all of the elements that could have been good
Hmm.
and
And then
fumbled
ended
them
up being so
all
bad.
so bad.
Yeah.
So bad. Well, I say all of the elements that could work minus the entirety of John Reed, Johnny Depp, and Tonto. So like
Yeah.
just the main two characters.
Basically just like the two main characters. We could have thrown them out and had a much better story.
Just we could have done our own thing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one day I'll maybe next time I'll run through a quick little draft of how I could have fixed this movie.
Hmm.
Maybe we could do that. Maybe next week we could both present how we would have done it better.
How I would have
Just real
fixed. Oh, that
quickly.
would be fun.
It could be fun.
It's like a little PowerPoint night, and you can share your screen and be like, "This is how I would fix the movie."
Yeah.
That would be
Oh,
fun.
that's fun. Let's do that. Oh, and one more thing, just real quick that I want to remember. The Native American chief who speaks perfect English, he does begin his story with many moons ago.
Oh, yes.
So,
That's what I was hoping you would say. I didn't get to
yeah,
that
I
part,
know.
but I was like, I'll watch
Yeah,
the
just
rest
in
of the
case
movie as
you,
long as he says many moons ago.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
If you were worried that the Native American character didn't say that, don't worry. Don't, never
true.
fear. It's there. It is. It
Yeah.
sure is. Yeah.
My last thing was when Helena Bonham Carter in the brothel, they say that they're gonna go find Butch Cavendish. It's the first scene that they meet, right at the end. And she's like, just make him pay for what he took from me. And she's sitting on a like chaise lounge in front of a huge picture of herself dancing. And it's like subtle. This isn't cool.
I wonder what he took from her.
We're subtly hinting that this woman with a prosthetic leg used to be a dancer. We're subtly hinting at that by having a huge, like almost mural-sized framed portrait of herself dancing.
Yeah. And we'd never explore that further,
No,
in case you were wondering. But
that's a one and
does
done.
have a gun in it, and that's pretty cool.
Her
And
prosthetic leg
again,
has a
this
gun in
could
it.
have
It's
been her
like,
movie.
yeah, it could have been cool.
We could have done so many other things.
Oh well,
Yeah.
next
Thank you
time
for
we meet,
watching this. I know you
we
would
will
like,
do other
I'm
things.
sorry. I recommend, I don't know if you have time tonight, but I recommend watching Pirates of the Caribbean because that movie's great.
Because
And
it's
I'm having the time of my life.
great.
And I might also add the Lone or Legend of Zorro. Not the other one. Legend of Zorro with Antonio Banderas. And
Mhm,
Anthony
mhm.
Hopkins, that's his name.
Yeah.
There's so many other things that I could have done
There's so
today.
many other things to watch. If you've made it this far into the video, just know that our basic, you could sum it up with watch something else.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about watching The Lone Ranger, parentheses 2013, think again.
Maybe that could be E. I was trying to figure out a way. I was trying to frame it in my head. Excuse me, should I watch The Lone Ranger 2013? No.
No,
But
I already don't remember. Oh, S is structure. I hardly know her. T T was too
damn
damn
long.
long. E
M was mood.
redacted. M mood.
Have we done you yet? Ew.
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 I think if we have, it's probably about time to reuse it. Ew.
Yeah, it's been a while. If we have, we might
Yeah.
not have ever done that. So
Don't remember.
just yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ugh.
Blech.
Okay. Ew, cooties.
You.
I'm gonna fight the way. You remember that? You remember
Yeah,
that? That's the
yeah.
thing in the movie that he
It's so
does twice.
stupid.
He does that twice. Because
Yeah.
remember, that's funny. I'm gonna vomit.
What is
Okay,
like
I better go
literally
get
what is it? Anyway.
like I don't know, man. Why are you trying to be a praying mantis? I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I better go.
Have a good dinner with your cats and they won't eat you.
Thank you. Thank you. You have a good evening with your cats as well. And please give them tiny little kisses on the tops of their little heads.
Okay.
Okay.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.